How's everybody doing? We're on to part 2 of our video today where we are making freezer meals, and I had this really ambitious list to conquer since about 10 o'clock this morning, and because life happens and I'm a mom and I also homeschool my kids, I have to take my kids to and from places all the time, and so I had a couple of appointments. Now we're done with that, and now on to part 2 of this video because it would really be kind of too long. I have my super awesome coffee here in my awesome coffee cup, and if you think that I'm drinking something that's really fancy made by a barista at Starbucks, let me just put it to you straight. This is coffee from this morning, brewed at 7 a.m., still in the pot, went cold. I stuck it in the microwave and poured some milk in it. It's done. It's gonna get the job done today, girls and boys. So I really don't discriminate. Coffee is coffee. I do have, I just spilled some on my foot. I do have some favorites. I'm a South Louisiana girl, and I absolutely love community coffee or anything that is like really strong from that area. I got coffee in my shoe now. That's great. That's what we all have to do, is clean up coffee from our shoe. Now maybe my feet will be more awake. Anyways. But when you're in a pinch, just some stale coffee that's warmed up in the microwave is really a welcomed sight. So, it still tastes just as good as it did from this morning. Okay, so as you were with me earlier, I made a whole bunch of meat sauce. See this beautiful meat sauce here? I've been waiting for it to cool so I can bag it up. So I figured you'd be with me while I bagged it. Second part of this, and I'm gonna have to take a break in the middle of this because I promised a friend of mine that I would go walk with her tonight, and I'm trying to be better about exercise. I have cheese to shred to keep in the freezer to use for other projects, and for our chicken enchiladas that I'll make later too with the homemade salsa verde that I can. Then I have the whole chicken that we put in the Instapot earlier this morning for the chicken and dumplings. So I have to debone that chicken, plus shred this, put this away. Here is our Mexican rice. I wanted to show you this too, that we made earlier. And I go to Goodwill, another Becky trick. I go to Goodwill and I get these. They have like all kinds of glass containers for $2, $3, what have you. I collect these things, and I ask other people who have them to collect them too, because you can reuse them and over again, and it's better for the environment, and why not? So I will always I'll line this with plastic wrap first, just to make sure nothing gets freezer burned, because it may be longer than a month. You may like skip over the Mexican rice and say like, oh, I had that not that long ago, I don't want to eat it again, and find something else back there in the freezer you like. I always put what it is written on the top in foil, because I'll use the foil a lot of times if I'm throwing something in the oven. If it's in the microwave, then I'll use the plastic wrap, but I will never put the plastic wrap in the oven with the foil, because then you'll mess up your dish. And then I'll put the instructions, the microwave or the baking instructions, on the top in sharpened marker, because sometimes you want to give these away as a gift. What if you have a friend that just had a baby, or somebody who's really needing a meal? Then you can use some of your freezer meals to go and bless somebody else. And that's another reason why I do this, and I have done this for a friend of mine who she and her son were in a really bad car accident. And so I made them a week's worth of freezer meals and took it to them. And at the same time, I made freezer meals for myself. I just doubled the recipe, and it was great. So right now, I'm gonna go ahead, and before I get started, you always want to write down what exactly it is that's in the bag, because you know sometimes when you have it in the freezer for a while, it starts to change color and shape or whatever, and you're like, what is this brown thing I put in the freezer? Well, you can't really write on this after you have that in the bag, because it's squishy, right? So you want to make sure that you make a mental note to do this beforehand. So I'm just going to put on here meat sauce, and then maybe just put the month and the year. Okay, so it is May, so 5/22. Okay, I'm guessing I'm gonna need probably 4 of these bags And so I'm gonna put meat sauce, the date, and I'm gonna do this 4 times because then the one that I did first is probably gonna dry by then. And then there's no guesswork. And even if the kids grabbed something out of the freezer, it wouldn't, they wouldn't be like, what the heck is this that I'm eating? I have no idea. I remember not that long ago, I had a friend of mine who was thawing something out in her crock pot, and she says, I don't know, I just found something brown and frozen in my freezer, and I threw it in the crock pot. She goes, I think it's a deer roast with gravy. I don't know. And so then when we got home and we checked it, she realized later on that it was a regular cow roast and it was in gravy. Anyway, it was good, whatever it was, but you don't want to thaw out like a kid's science project by accident and then call that dinner by accident. That would not be good. Okay, onward. Here is, let's take a sip of coffee. It's like the wine of my house. Come 3, 4 o'clock, I'm looking for a cup of coffee. Are you that way? Am I alone? Okay, so whenever I go to bag, I always kind of turn the top part inside out. Just a little pro tip here, because then you don't risk getting sauce and everything in the zipper part of your plastic bag. And now that this is cooled, it's actually easier to get in here. So I'm gonna do maybe like 4 of these scoops. I'll see after 3 what it looks like, because I want these to be like personal size bags. Yeah, I think like 1 more, like maybe a half a scoop would be good. Get in there, guys, come on. See, sometimes you just can't avoid having spillage on the side. All right, now I'm gonna roll that back up like this. Seal, get all the air out, and then you want to kind of like flatten it out so you can stack them really good in your freezer. All right, so here's one completed. Move this over here so you can see it's like I have clutter everywhere. No matter how hard I try, sometimes I just can't avoid the clutter. And I try to declutter as often as possible. Here, we'll move this over a little bit so you can see better. Boring. But I tell you what, I had company for 3 weeks here after my last trip to Louisiana, and the entire time that she was here, we ate freezer meals, and she never knew it the whole time because it was all scratch-made stuff. So it was like I made it all homemade meals, but I just had them in the freezer, and we were out busy doing other things. I think I didn't put the right measurement in this, but that's okay. I'll just get a little less. Anyway, but we always had really good dinner to make, to eat every single night, which was a lifesaver for me, because when you're entertaining guests at your house, and I don't know if you live in a place like we do, we live in Vacation Central. Everybody wants to come visit us because we live near Tampa, and there's so much to do here. So, which I would want to come visit me too. I'm also a lot of fun. So is my family. So, when they come, like, it's always like you want to go out and do stuff, but then you also, you want to be able to rest at some point. And if you have to come home and cook like a massive meal or whatever, I mean, who wants to do that after you've been like floating a river all day long, or you've been at some amusement park, or you've gone to Disney World, or whatever it is that you're doing, schlep these people around and show them a good time. And then eating out right now is super expensive. So I'm just helping you in any kind of life-saving hack I can get for you right now. That is what we're doing, my friends. Okay, this is going into the sink so that it can be washed. We're gonna move on to this chicken next. All right, moving on to the next project. Put this meat sauce out of the way here. Okay, so now we have our Instapot hen that we cooked today. Let's have another sip of coffee, shall we? Cheers, guys. It's not an Irish coffee. It's just a regular coffee. All right. It's kind of hot. All right. This dingamaflopper right here is an amazing tool. My grandmother gave me this. You can even see where the handle has been melted. I love it. You know, you just have some tools and you're just like, I cannot live without this tool. This is that tool. It is just a regular strainer. I'm sure you could find one anywhere, but it came from my grandmother, so I really like it. But it's just good for picking up big things that you don't need, like all the sauce to go with it, or for frying, or for shooing your children away. Come on, big boy. He's still hot. So, oh, he is falling apart too. Look at him. All right. So that's a good sign that he's falling apart like that. Maybe I should have submerged the whole entire thing because it seems like the top of the skin is dry. But that's okay. I mean, it's still like everything's cooked really well all the way through. And this broth in here, oh wow, it is really rich. Okay. Let me see if I can get the broth strained. What would I put it in? I have to find something to put it in. I'll just find a glass bowl for it. So the chicken is cooling, and we're gonna put him right here. Now I'm gonna strain this broth, and you're gonna see how rich it is. And we wanna make sure we put a strainer over it that is actually a tight knit. This one is like for canning or putting any kind of like liquid that you really want tiny bits, because I have another one that's like a big round one, but the mesh on it is not woven as tightly as this. So it's like less particles are gonna get through this guy than it would the bigger one that I have. So I like this one a lot. See how awesome that is? You should always get a dark broth because it's pulled a lot of things out of the bone, the marrow and the cartilage pieces in the chicken, the different fats, all of that, all of those pieces all work together and they're really good for our gut. So if you make bone broth consists of things from the gelatins and the extraction from the bones in the marrow and in the cartilage area that actually will mend our stomachs together. A lot of us have things called leaky gut syndrome, or maybe we have GERD or whatever, or you just like, you always have an unsettled stomach. If you make sure that you drink bone broth, like maybe once a day or whatever, you'll start to know a huge difference. Somebody's at the door. Okay, that was my son's friend wanting to come over and play. So, oops. I'm gonna put this aside. And I'm gonna put it back over here at this back counter. Now we're gonna go ahead and
Can I get my laptop and bring it over there with the case and try?
yeah.
Sweet, thanks.
Okay, so we are gonna take this awesome broth and we're gonna put it in a big pot. I might add a little bit of water to it. Welcome to my life. And somebody's always cutting the grass whenever I have to film something. It's just how it works. I'm gonna get out a big pot. We're gonna put in some onion. We're gonna put in some celery. And we're gonna get this broth really cooking here. And then I'll add in the chicken and another ingredient. We're gonna make the dumplings, but the dumplings are gonna be made separate because it's gonna be made as a freezer meal. You don't wanna add the dumplings into your broth and then freeze it because they'll basically dissolve into the broth, and when you go to reheat it, it's not gonna be good. So, okay, let me get a pot here. I have some frozen celery here, and I have an onion there, but I have another onion in my windowsill that needs to be eaten. So I'm gonna put this over here. This here, it's about time for me to put that in the freezer anyway. Okay, and reorganizing all the things. This a little piece of chicken. Okay, so I'm gonna dice. Hopefully this time I won't cut my finger. I'm a danger to myself today, I think. This top piece is like really, there's a lot of skin on it. Okay, Izzy, have fun.
But Mom.
I love you too. Okay, thanks. They can be so sweet when they want to. All right, so I'm gonna put this over here. Okay. This onion, I think it was almost on its last leg. I'm glad I'm saving you, saving it today so that it can be used for its greater calling in my chicken and dumplings. Okay. Oh man, these onions are getting to me. I usually don't have an onion problem with mine, but this one also has not been in the refrigerator. So I've noticed that onions that are cold, I think it's like a culinary trick. If the onion's cold, it doesn't really make you tear up. If it's out room temperature, it does. That one was a room temperature onion that had been ripening in my windowsill for some time. All right. Ooh. Like, try not to cry. Don't cry, it'll be okay. All right. I'll put some frozen celery in here. This is the best idea I've ever had in my entire life, by the way, which was to pre-dice celery and freeze it because it's very hard to find it in the frozen food section. Okay, so in here I have just onion and celery. You saw me dice the fresh onion, and now I have the frozen celery in here. I have one medium-sized yellow onion, and then probably 2 cups of diced frozen celery, which you can do fresh if you want to. I just, for my convenience, I have frozen. I just want to make sure that this becomes translucent. The onion especially, because it starts out white and then as you sweat it down, it becomes clear. So you don't really want to add the broth before that. The cooking process, it just takes a lot longer, and then you're like, the reason behind that, I find, is that you're going to be cooking, like reducing the broth by having to cook it twice as long. And if you're not careful, especially like with a lid or not a lid, you could lose your sauce by reducing it, and it'll shrink down actually, when you could have just sweat down those vegetables and then added the broth and not lost anything. So there's an order to everything. So that's the order that I'm going to do this, and I am going to go gather some more ingredients, and then I'll be back at the pot. Okay, so if you can see, I've got these vegetables are pretty translucent. I mean, I would say the majority of these things in here are sweated down pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and add this really awesome chicken stock we made in the Instapot. Try not to make a mess. And it is a awesome broth. Okay, so I'm going to need more of that. Get my trusty Brita out here. And you don't want to fill it all the way up to the top, because when you add chicken and then you add dumplings later, it's going to increase the volume of your water. Okay? Secret ingredient, y'all. Good old Campbell's cream of chicken. I added that to my chicken pot pie. I think I could buy stock in this stuff. Some of you may not like this. You may want to add your own, make your own cream of chicken soup. That is entirely up to you. This is just my kind of shortcut recipe. And usually when I just make a single batch, I only need one of these cans. But because this is a double batch, that's going to have chicken added to it, and I'm just doing the chicken with the cream of chicken in this. I'm going to add my own pulled apart chicken in this. I'm just doubling the volume because it's all going to go into baggies or a bowl or whatever to put in the freezer. I'll probably put this in a baggie. So we just want this to get all smoothed out. I've got to go on a walk with my friend, and then as I do that, when I come back, we're going to wrap this up, y'all. All right. Bye. Okay, I'm back. It's the next day, and I had to go to bed last night. I got so tired, and I've learned over the years that when you feel really tired, you should just shut it down and go to sleep. So I did that. Actually, if we're really confessing, I went and got in the bed and I watched a rom-com, and then I celebrated with a piece of cake and a glass of wine, and I fell asleep 2 bites in. And my husband came and found me at 1 o'clock in the morning when he was coming to bed, and he said, "Oh, this is a scene." So anyway, I had to clean up my mess, and it took me a while to go back to sleep. But anyway, now I am rested. I got the kitchen clean and ready to continue with part 2 of our freezer meals and planting some seeds and all that comes with Saturday. So right now I've got my chicken and dumplings back on the stove. I am actually heating up the broth. I'm going to turn the fire off because I don't want it to get too hot, because I'm actually going to put the broth mixture with some chicken in a container to freeze separately from the dumplings, and then we're going to make dumplings that we freeze separately on a cookie sheet. So and then the other part, I'm going to make some just to have in the fridge because my kids love chicken and dumplings, to be able to pick at, have for lunch, have for dinner, whatever, for the rest of the week. So anyway, that's kind of how we roll at our house sometimes. I just want to make sure that I have good food on hand that people can just gravitate towards, and nobody feels the need to go and get takeout. So right now we're going to pick the meat off this chicken and get it in the pot, and then start the process on the dumplings. So, okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to pick the meat off this bone. I put the chicken back in the refrigerator last night after I cooked it, just so you don't want to leave this stuff sitting out too long when you're in the middle of working out. Do I have this chicken upside down? I feel like I do. Ugh. I do. I have chicken upside down. You have to understand what is breast up and then the back part down. So breast has the most meat, so that's probably where I should start. And I just put some big chunks of chicken in there. And some of that broth on this chicken that we placed in here has become like a gelatin, and that just means it's really good, rich broth. That Instapot got so much out of the chicken to make that really rich broth that we were able to use in our dumplings, our chicken and dumplings. Have you ever had chicken and dumplings before? I know not everybody watching this right now is Southern, but this was a staple in my house growing up. My mom made it for me, And everybody has their own variation of how they make this dish. But we are very particular about our homemade dumplings. We don't use noodles. We don't use noodles that claim they're dumplings because they're an impasta. So, y'all, I get a little cheesy sometimes. But my mom always rolled her dumplings out by hand, and I've gotten a little bit lazy over the years, and I do like the little drop dumplings where I just spoon them in, and there's nothing wrong with that. They all kind of taste the same. It's the flavor, really, that you have to make sure you're getting really good for this recipe. Also, our dumpling to chicken ratio, my son loves dumplings. So I have to make sure that I'm not skimping on my dumplings here and that it's not a ton of chicken, because that's just not what he likes. My daughter's the same way too. So I cook according to what my kids like, because they're growing and everything. They're growing up, not out like me. So my son has reached this phase where he's growing so fast, and he's 12, that I don't think he eats enough, and he's very lean, very, very lean. So I try to find anything and everything that I can to be able to give him the right kind of fuel that he likes. So anyway, yeah. So I think I probably have enough chicken in there right now. I'm gonna go wash these hands, my chicken hands, and I'm gonna dish some of this out into a container to have for the freezer. And then I'm gonna bring the rest of it to a rolling boil, so when we put our other dumplings in there to have in the refrigerator, it's all set, because that rolling boil will then cook the dumplings for me. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have this size plastic container. It's easy to just slide into the freezer, and then if you want to use like a piece of masking tape or something on the lid to tell you what it is, that's always very helpful to identify your frozen dinners that start to all look the same after a little while. So I am gonna spoon, or ladle rather, some of this mixture in here. It actually helps to have a hot chicken so that the meat separates from the chicken a lot easier. It's not as easy to separate cold chicken from the bone. So, and I'm seeing I could use a whole lot more chicken. I'm just gonna go ahead and debone this entire chicken and put it into this broth here. All right, so now we're gonna make the dumplings, and this is a very easy throw together recipe. I don't really use a whole lot of measuring, but I'm gonna do a double batch. So I've got my dumpling broth with the chicken and everything. It's boiling over there. So now we're gonna make the dumplings. We can do part for freezing and the other part for just cooking and putting in the refrigerator for us to kind of pick on throughout the week. I'm gonna get a cookie sheet really quick. And my Silpat. So if you don't have a Silpat, which is a silicone mat for baking, I highly recommend getting one. I've had that thing for like 15 years and it's been great. Okay, so, and I use it instead of like foil or wax paper or whatever, because stuff just comes right off. Okay, I'm gonna add my flour first. So if I was going to do one batch, I'd probably do 2 scoops, which would be roughly around 2 cups. Probably do a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm gonna do another 2 scoops here to make that about 4 cups of all-purpose flour. You always want to combine your dry ingredients first. So let me get measuring here. You want to put a little bit of salt in this so it's not just a floury taste, although it's going to be surrounded by a lot of really good salty broth. So you don't want it too salty. So I'm going to do a tablespoon of kosher salt in here. I'm going to take my spoon. Some people use a wooden spoon. I'm just using this because it's nearby. Actually, you know what? I think I am using a wooden spoon. Okay, so I mix the salt in with the flour here. And next, I'm going to combine 2 eggs, okay? Doesn't matter what kind, brown, white, whatever. I like Happy Eggs. It's a brand, an organic free-range brand. If I can, I'll go to the feed store and I'll buy eggs from them that they actually know the chickens who laid the eggs. Then I'm gonna add in here some milk. And when I say some milk, it depends on just the firmness of the dough that you're making, and then you want to add a little bit of oil, not like maybe, I don't know, 2 tablespoons here. So I'll appease you people that like measurements and do the measuring here. So we got 1, 2. I have no idea what that does, but I've been told it needs it. So that is what we are doing. Okay, so now we're just gonna mix all of this together. And you may find this is still a little bit dry. It might need a little bit more milk. So see, there's not like an exact measurement to it. You just wanna make sure that you don't have a dough that's too wet because you're gonna roll it out. And you don't wanna have something that's too dry because it's gonna crumble everywhere. So now I had a pretty good ratio here, I think. Okay, so here's what we're looking for here. It's firm, it's kind of clumping together. It looks pretty decent, okay? So what I'm gonna do is kind of just try to make sure you can see everything.
You can.
Okay, good. See, it pays to have an assistant, a director. All right,
Well,
I'm gonna sprinkle out some flour on this puppy here, and then I am gonna just drop the dough onto the flour. All right, you might wanna try to get the rest of the dough off of here. And then I'm gonna put a little bit more, because you know, I like to actually roll this out. So I'm gonna cover this with a pretty good amount of flour here. All right, just wipe that on there. I'm gonna get out my rolling pin. This is a really good rolling pin because it's made out of marble and it's heavy.
It's fancy.
It's fancy. Okay, so always, even like with pie crust, you wanna roll, like, gotta get away from me. Usually I just do it on the countertop, but this also is quite helpful because then you don't have a whole bunch of mess to clean up. And I really dislike the part about making dumplings where the dough gets really stuck to my countertop and then I have to scrape it off later. All right, so you don't really want to roll this out super thin. Aren't you excited? I'm actually rolling out dumplings this time, Vic.
What do you do?
Usually I drop them in. Remember, like, make little balls?
So oh, you're doing like little strips?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's fancy.
It's fancy.
It's like your rolling pin.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna use a pizza cutter to cut the dumplings. It just makes life oh so much easier. And you don't want these, you want these like maybe like an inch wide because they expand. once they get into the broth. So I'm just gonna keep rolling it out. It's gonna make a lot of dumplings, y'all. It really is. All right. Get that one back over there. Okay. Come across here, you're gonna make squares. Rectangles, whatever you want to call them. Okay. Okay, so now I probably need a spatula. Actually, I could use this. That would probably work, right? Yeah? Okay. So, just gonna pick up some of these guys and individually lay them out, because you know what? I'm gonna put this in the freezer so that they harden individually, and you don't want to put these in a like in a clump in a bag or anything like that, because it's they're gonna stick together, and then you don't want that whenever you put them in like a dumpling mixture or whatever. You don't want a big clump of dumplings. It's no bueno. And so the dumplings that I actually put in the freezer, since it's kind of like a half batch, I'm not gonna need a ton of dumplings for it, but I can always like add a little bit of water or something like that to it. And this flour from the dumplings actually is going to thicken that broth up a little bit too, which is good. And I'm gonna go put these in the freezer in just a minute so they can go ahead and get nice and frozen, and then I can transfer them to a Ziploc bag so that I have dumplings, because I've tried the other kind of frozen dumplings that you get at the grocery store that say like they're Southern or whatever, and they don't taste the same. I like to make my own.
Imposters.
I said that earlier.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
That's how we're related.
Oh.
Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna go stick this in the freezer, and the rest of this, I'm gonna carry it over to my pot so that, so we can get it to a roll and boil, and it can be cooking there. And there's some that are a little bit sticky in the middle, and that's okay. We'll work those out. So, okay, follow me over here to the pot, and I'll get those going, and then we'll do the one in the freezer. Okay, so I'm gonna add each dumpling in to a rolling boil. Add these little pillows here. You have to space them kind of one at a time. And now we're gonna go ahead and pop those dumplings into the freezer and let them freeze for about an hour before we go ahead and separate them and put them into a Ziploc bag with a label to put back in the freezer. Here are our finished product of chicken and dumplings, y'all. It is so good. It's a lovely bowl of a southern hug just waiting for us, and we can't wait to enjoy it. I hope you make this one too. Victoria and I are having some mother-daughter banter back and forth here. Okay. If you only knew what I had to put up with. Okay. So I am gonna do what I just discovered that you can freeze cheese, which sounds gross, but it's not. It's a lifesaver because this is not good cheese like a brie or some kind of blue cheese or whatever. I wouldn't freeze those cheeses because I like to eat them with a cracker with honey or wine or whatever. So my dog's down here going, oh, you got food up there, lady. Come on, hand it over. But I get blocks of Monterey Jack because you can't find shredded Monterey Jack here. I don't know if that's just like a Texas thing or whatever, but we use it a lot in Mexican cooking. And I get like a big block of mozzarella cheese to shred for pizzas or lasagnas or whatever else. And then I get a sharp cheddar and I keep it in a big Ziploc bag in my freezer, and it's just really easy to pull out. Hey, can you go get me a the big Ziploc bags out of there, please? Thanks. All right, so I'm gonna start by shredding some of this Monterey Jack cheese, and then of course you want to like write on the bag what it is. Sarcasm at its finest. Okay, so now I'm gonna just kind of cut it into cubes, and I've got the little attachment that does the shredding. You don't want to use the regular choppy thing that goes, technical term here, in your food processor. You want to do the shredding blade. It's like a wheel almost that sits on the top. Your food processor should have come with one. Hopefully it did if you got the KitchenAid guy. So I just do like little blocks like this, click it on the top. All right, Gertrude is old. She's been in the fam for a long time. She was a wedding gift, and that was almost 18 years ago. So she's got a lot of, I hope she still has a lot more life left in her. It's better, I feel like, to use the pulse butt.
Maybe say that again so we can hear you.
What? Oh. Houston, we have a problem. Okay, let's put another block in there. You want to work with cold cheese. Don't leave the stuff out and let it get all warm and glossy. Okay. Interesting. All right, so I have 2 blocks of cheese because, you know, I use a lot of mozzarella at my house. I make pizza dough sometimes. We have like pasta bake. Sometimes you just need some mozzarella, and I don't like to buy the pre-shredded cheese because it has this stuff on it. It's kind of like sawdust, and it keeps the cheese separated from clumping together, but it's like a thing you don't need in your cheese, and I don't know what that does to us internally. And while this is Walmart brand cheese, you gotta pick your battles some kind of way, and I just feel like the shredded cheese thing, when I started learning about that, I was like, ew, I don't want that on my cheese. That's disgusting. That's gross. So now, let me see if I can squeeze another block in here. It might be too much. Oh, it fits. All right, sometimes you gotta back up here. We'll just go easy on her. She's a little girl. What happened now? Oh, you gotta have the top screwed on tight. There we go. Okay. Wow. That kind of frightened me a little bit.
I think you need a new one.
the cheese. Okay. My facial expression says it all. Shredding cheese can be dangerous. I am a professional, kids. Don't try this at home. Oh, I feel like I'm getting better at this though, right? Like, I mean, less is getting clogged. All right. Okay, so just have a few little interesting cheese pieces here. Clumps, yes.
Oh.
All right. Oh, but look at all that lovely cheese in there. Okay. Oops. I'm gonna put it here on the board. Let me get my marker. Because you want to mark your bags before you put the stuff in it, because then otherwise you can't write on it very well. So I always,
You're in the shot. You don't need to.
Yeah. Okay, so I also put the date on here because in the event that this gets lost under the other things that are in the freezer, everybody has an issue with this. Don't pretend like you're not one of us that has random items in the freezer you thought you would eat 4 years ago and it's still in there. Every once in a while you got to do a freezer clean out. Let's see if I can do this without making a mess. I just don't know. That's coffee. Right.
Maybe
Well,
that's why they put
this
the
is
sawdust in there.
that's why they put the sawdust in there. You're right. Now we know there's a reason for everything. And it's really not sawdust. It's like a
Sawdust-like
type product. Yeah.
Yummy.
And yeah. All right. So now I'm gonna pick up the little rando pieces here. And now I've got a full bag. It actually wasn't as expensive too. I think you pay more for shredded, already shredded mozzarella cheese versus stuff that you shred on your own. So into the freezer it's gonna go, and then I'll work on the, was that mozzarella or was it, no, this was Monterey Jack. Oh my goodness. Okay, you cannot give your baby a different name. Jack, his name is Jack, not Moz. All right, he's Jack. Jack's going in the freezer. You can stop that clip.
Oh, you want me to stop it?
Yeah.
What's the word?
And action.
Action. That's the word.
Okay, so now I'm on to the mozzarella, which I thought I was having a moment with mozzarella before, but I was not. It was Jack. Jack. I feel like Titanic. Okay, Jack and what was her name? Rose?
I think, yeah, Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Jack.
All right, put a little black
Big one.
mozzarella in there.
It's a big one.
And this is not fresh mozzarella, this is the other kind. I find if I just slightly press down, I am less likely to have it get caught. Practice what you preach, Ann. Just call me the Spinderella of food processors.
Ma.
What?
That was terrible.
Oh. But I got it done.
No, the joke, it was awful.
Oh. You know me, I just have, it's like dad jokes. I have my mom jokes trump dad jokes. catch. And then done like that. Like, okay, now we're on board. We're all on the same page. But it's stuck in there. At least it came back around. Come on, Bertha. Okay, we're just gonna leave it at that. It looks like I gotta actually make another bag anyways. All right, now he's Amaz cheese. All right, so I'm gonna just dump this into the bag, and then I think we'll keep going because I have just a little bit of cheese left, and then move on to cheddar because cheddar makes it better. And I'm not cleaning the blade in between the cheeses because literally there's like hardly any on there on the blade anyway to make a difference in changing taste or flavors or all the things. So that would just take up more time than it's really worth. Okay, got a little piece, got a big piece. All right, let's go for it. Come on, girl, come on. All right. Please, please. Please. Oops. Oh, I almost, did I break a nail? No, I didn't. I think I'm just gonna leave this over here for scraps because I just don't want to chance it. So now, I'm gonna put this in the Ziploc bag, and now he's going into the freezer. So the next one I'm doing is a block of sharp cheddar, and then I'll have 3 types of cheeses in the freezer to last me to make several different meals. I'm going to end up using the Monterey Jack to make our chicken enchiladas here in a little bit, and that will be the final meal of this project. So I'm really excited. Okay, into the freezer it goes. Okay, we are gonna get going on these chicken enchiladas. So being that I lived in Texas, in Houston exactly, for 15 years. My husband's from there, my kids were born there. We have a love relationship with Mexican food. And it's a staple in our home. We have to have it at least like, what do you say, Vic, once a month, once a week? Some kind of Mexican food once a week.
Yes.
Yes, that is accurate. So when we moved to Tampa, there really wasn't very good, I forgot to put my phone there. There wasn't very good Mexican food here. They all claimed it was Mexican food, but we know different. It's kind of like if you're from Wisconsin and you go to have a cheese curd here, it's like, so I had to learn how to make my own traditional Tex-Mex enchiladas, Mexican rice, which you saw me make earlier, refried beans, like all the favorite things, which I'll make more videos for, especially when we get to chili cheese enchiladas. Wow. Those are amazing. Victoria does that. So this is what we're gonna do. I have 3 chicken breasts because I'm gonna try to stretch this and make 2 casserole dishes of enchiladas that I can put in the freezer. One I may even end up giving away to a friend. I have a couple of friends who are really kind of on the struggle bus right now and they're needing some extra love, so what better to give them than a meal. So into the food processor they go. You know, it would probably be better for me if I like kind of cut them in half. a little bit so that it doesn't clump to one side. Now, generally I do a pulled chicken where I pull it apart. Today I am being lazy. I don't feel like it, so it's going into the food processor, and hopefully it won't be too much of a fine grind there. But I have the regular blade in and the top off. So let's pulse, shall we? I feel like if you pulse and you don't just have it on, you have better control over the consistency and the texture. So this is like pretty close to perfect here. It's not like pate where it's all smooth and whatever. It's just kind of shredded, kind of ground up. So
It looks like ground beef.
yeah, it kind of does look like ground beef, doesn't it?
Ground turkey or something.
Something. It's actually ground chicken.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk? Okay. So now, let me rinse my hands off. Nobody likes chicken under their fingernails. That's gross. Okay. So now I'm going to put a block of cream cheese, and this has been sitting out at room temperature for about an hour. And you don't want to have super cold cream cheese. Cream cheese, I mean, Paula Deen had it right. Mayonnaise, cream cheese, bacon. I'm all for those things. So I'm gonna just why I did that. Struggle is real, guys. It is real. And I'm just gonna do it in chunks here because I might have to stick this puppy in the microwave and get this cheese a little bit more melty so that it'll all fold in to the chicken. And I'm gonna give you my secret part of the recipe that really is why chicken enchiladas, corn tortilla enchiladas are my favorite, but you have to, there's one really important step that most people don't understand to make them more restaurant quality. And if you don't know, you don't do it. So right now I've got some enchilada sauce that I actually canned myself back last year. And it's made out of tomatillas and like cilantro, and I made a salsa verde. And some of it was a little bit thin. I think this one even has avocado chunk in it. And you can, yes it does because I can see it, chunks of avocado in here, which is so good. So the avocado does not turn brown because all of the air is sucked out of the can and is sealed to be shelf stable. So now I'm gonna open it up, and I use other peppers in here to make it a little bit spicy, but I do kind of like a medium heat. But I fire roast my peppers in the salsa verde first so that you've got like a charred flavor in there. And I'm just gonna add some of this into the mix. And what did you do with that wooden spoon?
It's over there.
You put it away?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. She put something away, y'all.
Don't act so surprised.
What?
Don't act too surprised.
Okay, I promise I won't. But I'm surprised. I'm getting a serious eye roll right now.
No, cringe.
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 Cringe. Okay, this has to go in the microwave. It's a little bit, it's not room temp enough. So I'm gonna put it in the microwave so we can blend the cheese together. We wanted to introduce you to our dog Lucy. This is how she begs for food or just wants us to pay some attention to her. She looks like a bat from upside down. We think she's praising the Lord. We have no idea what's going on, but it's adorable. All right, so I microwaved this for like 35 seconds to just get it going, and I added some more of this salsa verde because I don't want the mixture on the inside to be too dry. We want it to taste really good. And I'm not really gonna, I need to taste it to see if it's gonna have enough flavor. Some flavor. I might add some jack cheese to this mixture too. Yeah, because it looks a little bit like runny chicken salad right now. And you want it to be kind of firm. So, I'm gonna get some of this jack cheese, some jack, and I'm gonna add it to the mixture because I'm all about gauging it with my eyes. That's probably enough. Okay, and just mix it. You could, if you didn't want to take the steps of actually what I'm about to do with these tortillas, and okay, this is much better. This consistency is not runny. It is kind of, it's firm.
Should I do a close-up on it?
Sure. It's firm. And so it's going to be easy to form into like little like logs when you put it in the corn tortilla. It won't run out all over the place. That's cream cheese. Thought it was paper. Like, oh, how'd that get in there? All right. Okay, so here is the secret ingredient to fabulous Tex-Mex enchiladas. We're not using flour tortillas. I feel like using flour tortillas, when you cook enchiladas, some recipes will say flour tortillas, and I do have a recipe for that. It's a sour cream, Monterey Jack cheese, chicken, white sauce recipe, which is amazing. This, for like this chicken enchilada recipe or a chili cheese enchilada recipe where you use a corn tortilla, you never want to put them in the casserole dish rolled up without doing this step. So I have vegetable oil here, this right here. I put probably about an inch of vegetable oil in here because I have 16 corn tortillas to fill. Each casserole dish takes about 8 corn tortillas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently fry them on each side, not to where they're crispy, but where they're like kind of just get a little bit crisp around the edges. And then I'm going to stack them on this plate. So into the grease they go. The oil, sorry, not grease, oil. But can they see in here?
Let me do a zoom in.
Okay. So because what it's going to do is going to make it tougher it's going to make it more pliable, but then around the edges, like it kind of keeps it from like disintegrating. So if you put it in the freezer with filling on the inside of it without this step, my friend, you are messing up. It is not going to turn out great. So it's still, like what you can see, it's not crispy, it's still bendy. We just stack it over here and we're just going to keep going. We're going to do all these tortillas just like this. Let it fry, let it puff up a little bit, and then flip it over. Okay, so we are ready to assemble these enchiladas, and I have my lovely assistant here, the lovely Victoria.
Did you say it in an accent?
Because that's what I do when I say your name, Victoria. Victoria. Okay, so.
Oh wait.
Yes, she knows. Mama is a stickler for washing hands. So I'm gonna get started while you're doing that. Okay, so what I wanna do is I've got all these kind of fried up. I'm just gonna start in the center of this, and I'm gonna take some filling and I'm gonna lay it just like a little line here. You don't need a whole lot, and that's probably almost too much. And you want to roll it like a cigar, like that, okay? And you want to keep going down the line like this. So I'm going to do some, Vic, and then I'm going to let you do the next batch. How does that sound?
Great.
Excellent. Okay. I didn't always add cream cheese to my enchilada mix, but it was a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say, one day.
R.I.P.
Is that rest in peace?
Yes.
Oh, I was like, rip, what?
Sorry.
So I just decided I was like, wonder what it would taste like if I added cream cheese. And it was delicious. And I added it with the salsa verde. Now you could, to just really maximize your space here, put enchiladas on the side or whatever, but then it becomes like a casserole, and I like to be able to see where my enchiladas are, how many I have, helps me to count for people. But if you don't care, then you can add more to the side to just make like a whole pan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, have enough for 2 more.
It's kind of satisfying to watch.
Is it? Mm-hmm. She said it was satisfying to watch. I don't know if you could hear her or not, but I think she's probably right. Okay, so can try to move them out a little bit. Try to like flatten them out a little. Okay, so do you kind of understand
Yes.
what to do? All right, have at it, girl.
Yay.
So while she's doing that, I'm gonna do this. So I'm gonna take the salsa verde and I'm gonna pour it over the top. And then I'm gonna open up the second jar because that's really not enough. Another method to doing this is that after you fry the tortillas, that you would dip it in the sauce. I'm not a big fan of that.
Did I roll it okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. Good job. All right. So I got a little bit more here. This one's a little chunkier. All the sauces just turn out a little bit different sometimes. So I got a little bit more fire roasting. Perfect. Okay. Now I'm also gonna top this with some Monterey Jack cheese. So you can do as much or as little as you like. That's a pretty good amount. It just depends on how much of a cheese person you really are.
Hot.
It is hot, yes. So that's it, guys. You can also, if you have, and you can buy a salsa verde at the grocery store already made. You don't have to make your own unless you really want to. But this is what it looks like, the finished product. And she's over here making casserole number 2.
My baby.
Yeah, I guess I fried you enough. We'll find out. Anyway, so this is chicken enchiladas. I'm gonna cover this up. I'm gonna put it in the freezer, and I think I'm gonna give one of these to our neighbor tonight for dinner.
Which
So,
neighbor?
Stephanie. Yeah.
You
my
guys
phone's
don't know
ringing.
who Stephanie is. Guess you'll never know.
This is all the time we have for today.
Don't say that.
Well, what should I say?
Don't keep this in the video. Bye.
Bye. This is Ann with Share Sheds TV and Victoria. All right. We'll see you later. I hope you enjoyed our video today. If you like our channel, feel free to like or subscribe and put your comments below. Have a blessed day.